Netgain Motors, home of the Warp, Transwarp, and Impulse motors, introduced the improved Warp 9 motor. The Warp 9 is a 9 1/4 diameter series wound DC motor with a double-ended shaft featuring 26 improvements for 2010. Externally, the terminal studs have been enlarged from 3/8 to 1/2 inch diameter. Bigger is better. On the inside, a larger commutator, new brush composition, and split brush design with heavier springs handle even higher voltages and currents than before. Our new fan increases airflow by almost 50% over typical paddle-style fans, and all this translates into improved performance. For even more performance or larger applications, take a look at Netgain's Warp 11 motor, an 11 3/4 diameter series wound DC motor for even greater torque and power. Since 2002, Netgain Motors has been leading the EV industry with precision, performance, and price. Visit us at go-ev.com. Netgain Motors, warp power to go.
Hello, I'm Jack Rickard with EVTV. Who are you?
I am your compadre and consigliore El Breno Noto.
That's right.
It's been a long couple of weeks, man.
Electric vehicle television. All right.
EVTV.
Welcome. We've been hard at work on a number of things. As you can see, we now live in a completely green background.
That's right. We are somewhere in Munchkin land or
Yes,
something.
we've
made
our,
it.
Our new set in front of our chroma key green background.
I know. Isn't that cool?
Or is that the front of the shop?
It's some damn thing.
It's hard to tell.
We can't tell.
See, we don't get to see it.
But I can tell you, there is a storm coming over from this direction.
You know, I could have been on the Weather
Could have been on
Channel,
the Weather Channel.
except for kind of a rotator cuff
Yeah,
thing. I
that's
could
right.
do Texas okay, but
You start to get to New England and things, it's tough. Huh?
Yeah, that never did work for me.
Those storms coming down from Canada are murder, huh?
We did take a week off. Largely, it wasn't a planned absence. We just had one disaster after another.
While we were filming the Friday
we
show.
had no show.
No.
And here it is, 5 o'clock the next Friday, and we don't have much of one now.
We've been hard at it.
I've been having a good time playing with cell modules and blowing up test equipment.
All of the test equipment.
Pretty much.
We have a couple of multimeters that are good.
I kind of wiped out
You did.
the
It's
battery
like a
lab,
one fell
didn't I?
swoop. Yeah.
Actually, no misses with the batteries. It was just I had test equipment failing.
Yeah, all the test equipment. We have a couple of we have a couple of fluke meters that still work.
I had a whole thing going on the headway cells, and
That's what we were filming.
and so
Yeah.
forth, and it just didn't come together. So we sort of didn't have a show last week. We've got a little bit of one this week. What, do you have any news?
Well, there is some stuff that went off. It looks like Tesla lost a couple of its executives. Peter Rawlinson and Nick Sampson, and their stock took a little hit today, about 19% slide. And I guess that's their vice president and chief engineer and their chassis engineer have departed. And I think they've got some interim people in there, a guy from VW and another fellow. But
Peter Rawlinson was kind of the spokesperson for the engineering team. He did some videos that were very good about the Tesla Model S.
Yeah, and that's what it was. He was. Yeah, they were right before the S. They were in charge of it, but they've
personal matters in the UK. Oh well.
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
And they've got some new guys in there. I can't tell if they're interim or whatever, but they do have a couple of people in. So
Okay.
I guess they'll move forward anyway. But the stock took a little hit anyway. It took about a 19% dump.
Well, I don't really like that. I've got quite a bit of
I know.
good stuff.
I know. You know, we talked about Fisker a little bit a couple of weeks ago, and they had the problems with the A123 cells and the battery modules and a couple of and a recall. Well, they had a new recall now today. They have a software bug. They have halted production of the car, and they have discovered a software bug in the Fisker.
Huh? What's the nature of the bug?
You know, it really didn't say what it was, but it's enough to stop them cold. You know.
Introducing a new car from scratch but I've had this one picked out as kind of the Walking Dead for some time.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, you've kind of called that one for a while. Yeah.
And that's caused a lot. I don't expect the Coda to do much better. Coda's actually pretty good conversion work, frankly. But
Yeah.
they're starting with a very plain Chinese.
Yeah, it's a
today
Chinese car, yeah.
of no particular quality. And they're already lowering the price on it. Well,
And that thing was, what was it, like 40 grand for that car or something?
Yeah,
It was high.
it's down to 37 now for the
That's still high, yeah.
base model.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of money for a little sedan. So, not all this is going to work.
No, I mean, there's going to be a lot of stuff thrown on the wall that just isn't going to happen.
Ford has started production on their Focus, and I think,
Oh, cool.
I think that's going to be kind of the hot number.
That should be a good car.
I think Ford will do a good job with that.
I do too.
Again, the pricing for a lower end Ford, I don't think the value proposition is particularly good, but they will, I would predict, do better than Chevrolet and easily as well or better than Nissan.
Than the Nissan, yeah.
Probably so. I would find.
I think so. I think
Focus
Ford
more
will, and that's a nice car, and that's a world car. It's a proven vehicle. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yep.
That's that platform shares with the the Volvo, the S40, the one I have, and the Mazda 3. That's a real.
Were you telling me that Ford is going to make available a classic body?
They're supposed to make all the sheet metal available for, I believe, it's the '67 Mustang convertible.
Really?
Yeah, there's just so many of them out there that need the body parts that they're just making the entire sheet metal available for that car.
Huh. That's kind of cool.
Isn't that neat? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, why didn't Chevrolet do something like that with a '53 Corvette?
I know, and supposedly it's better. The metallurgy's better now. Everything is
sure.
better. Yeah, so it should be really cool.
Okay.
GM's vice president, and we got the CES going on this week and the Detroit Auto Show.
Detroit Auto Show.
So
It's chaos.
It's all chaos out there. So everybody's talking, whatever they need to talk. But GM's, I think that this is Steve Gursky, which is their, I don't know if he's a VP or president, vice chairman. Excuse me, Mr. Gursky. Well, they were saying that they did fall short. I guess 7,600 volts sold. 10,000 unit target, but didn't that thing move a little bit, that target?
Brian, give me a break.
I'm just setting them up
Their
to
original target for 2011 was 110,000
1,000 vehicles.
That
Yikes.
was in a press release. They later, in pretty deep into 2011, revised that upwards to 60,000 units.
Oh, revised the 110,000 up to 60,000.
Up to 60, and in fact did a whole factory to support that increase.
Man, that must
From
have killed them.
110,000
Must have murdered
to 60,000. And now they've admitted that they've missed their target of 10,000.
Of 10,000, and they've got 76, 71 is
What
what
am
they're
I
saying.
supposed to say about these guys? This is just ass clowns in space playing automobile. How can you take General Motors seriously when everything that comes out of their mouth is a bare-faced, in-your-face, not just lie, but you must be stupid accusation kind of lie?
Well, and I did like
It's
this.
crazy.
And I did like this. Apparently they asked him if they're going to be able to declare their production target of 60,000 volts, if they're going to be able to do that in 2012. Well, they're going to, in quote, the automaker will make enough to satisfy demand. Didn't say that they were going to ever make enough for 60,000.
Wait a minute. What? I thought they couldn't fill demand. Is why they only sold 6,000 this year.
Yeah, so it's all craziness.
You can't deal with what they say. All that means is their lips are moving.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah.
It's impossible
amazing.
to rely. How can it be okay to lie for a living?
Well, I think there's a lot of professionals out there.
It seems it's got to be socially.
I think there's a lot of professionals out
These
there.
people aren't even in politics. They're
No, I
automobile
know. They're
manufacturers.
automobile dudes. I know the guys like the vice chairman. All he's got to do is talk to investors and things. You know what I mean? It's yeah, we're not sure that volt. It's slumping a little.
Oh, goodness.
There is a car.
I suspect. I think the Volt is over-engineered. It's got 103 microprocessors in it.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be a nightmare to maintain. But I would be willing to guess that I would really like a Volt if I had one.
They sound like nice cars.
They're
sound like a
grossly
very nice car.
over-engineered.
Yeah.
They've got a lot. They had to put together something quickly, and what that does is keep them from cutting all the corners and making it chintzy. They have to do it good.
Right, they had
the
to do
first
it
time.
good. Yep, they had to do
and
it.
I would suspect that Volt may be one of the better cars created in the last 15 years. But it's hard to tell because
Yeah, exactly. They're flip-flopping. Talk about flip-flops, huh?
yeah, these guys are just like they enjoy being the evil empire of the electric vehicle thing. Why? Why do they like that role?
I don't know.
Why don't you just throw up your hands and say, okay, it's like pro wrestling. You can be the good guy this week.
That's right.
We'll be the bad guy. Why should you have to be
You don't
the
have to
bad
take the
guy
heat
all
every
time?
week.
You don't have to be the evil empire of electric vehicles. It's not that hard. You make a lot of different cars. Make a good all-battery EV, preferably a Cadillac for me, and let it go.
Yeah, that's right. Be done with it.
Sure. Yank that little piston popper out of the
out of the
Volt
Volt
design and put it in a good Cadillac upscale vehicle, and
Be done with it.
Get on the right side of the fence for what General Motors. You don't have to be a loser. It's not an assignment.
Now, there is a car that I would actually like to see, and maybe we can get a shot of it up here, but VW apparently is making a two-seater off of their new Bug. They're updating the Beetle. And they're going to make a two-seat electric car, and it says that the likelihood of the e-Bugsters, name it right now, will make it into production. It's a very high probability, and maybe this new Bug, the way that they've designed it, and maybe we get a shot of it here. Yeah, there we go. Is if you notice, it's a little bit longer, a little lower to the ground. It actually looks more like the old Volkswagen, like a Beetle, not like the round, the current Volkswagen. They're going to be trading that new Beetle out for this new body style.
I almost bought an old Beetle this
Oh,
week.
did you? Okay.
69. I saw it on YouTube. It was Kelly green, but it had white sidewalls and these little hooded eyes.
Oh yeah, the little chrome eye shades. Yep.
And it just looked so cute. I immediately called the guy to buy it, and it was already gone.
It was already gone. Oh man.
And I don't think he got anything for it, $8,000 or something.
Oh man.
But it was just. And it was a real good,
real nice restoration.
Who just sent us in, Alan Levinson, his new VW conversion. And that's probably a good car for an electric thing. If you want, for a couple of reasons. One, Rebirth Auto down in St. Petersburg.
Seb and the guys down there,
They've already done one of these and have the adapter and everything worked out.
Yes.
And so
that's a big deal,
That makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
But that is a modern car with environmentals.
Yeah, it's got all the stuff,
The air conditioning and the heat and so forth, and it comes in a stick, so it's easy to convert.
You get a stick.
And so you wind up with a good little EV and good air conditioning and heat.
That's right.
And a modern
and a late model car, exactly.
But this is Volkswagen. I can't take this seriously. I love it, the look, but I've loved the last 6 that they're throwing stuff up against the wall weekly.
I know.
There's a new VW electric car every week.
Every week, yeah.
And they never land on anything. They announce them. They're not going to produce any of these. They'll produce something.
Something eventually.
Right now, they're just throwing stuff up against the wall and seeing which sticks to the paint.
Yeah, see what people like. Yeah.
So who knows? But
I do like I do like this new Beetle.
I like their little bus thing, their little micro bus. Only it was even more micro. It was a shorty. It was like a Scion XB. They did. They never did that. No. Let's see, what else we got this week? Everybody's just kind of coming out and coming to our side, and there was a study, I think a couple of PhD candidates at Cornell or something this week. I couldn't find all the details, verifying that people only drive 30 miles a day. In fact, I think that
in cities and some other places, urban settings, people drive a lot less. We know around here people drive a lot less. It really depends on where they are, but it's just another, giving us a credibility, a validation that people just think they drive their cars way more than they do, and this whole range anxiety thing is just completely made up.
Yeah, well, it's not completely made up. It's only an issue for people that don't know
That
squat
don't
about
have an electric car,
cars.
right? That don't drive electric cars.
We may create a little range anxiety in 2012. We've been kicking around some shorter range vehicle concepts.
We have.
Using some of these more powerful cells to offer the ability for some of our viewers to go ahead with a conversion at maybe something less than the $15,000 to $18,000 we usually
Right, for our lighter vehicles,
quote
for the Porsches and things,
lighter
yeah.
vehicles, using these A123 cells and headways and so forth that have higher power, and but you could use less of them.
Get a lighter weight.
Yeah, the
pack,
concept is the lead acid guys right now. Of course, they're all furious with me because I don't think a lead acid car does anything.
Well, it does a lot less, yeah.
It's a science project. It's not.
And we've already done that.
Yeah, it almost is a counterproductive at this point. It gives people the wrong impression
right,
about electric car and how they work, what they do. But we might do a 40-mile car with a half-size battery pack if it could put out enough current to
Right, if you could
operate
drive
the
it
car
like a real car,
when
yeah.
it drives it.
Right.
With a half pack at half the pack price, we could be down maybe $4,000 or $5,000 in batteries instead of 8 or 9.
Instead of 8 or 9, 10, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Have a 40-mile range, which is better. The 40-mile range on lead acid is a myth. Nobody has it. They have
And not for long if
they
they
have about
do.
25 or 30, and it starts diminishing immediately from there.
Right.
And then, of course, the lead acid cells only last 2 years. I think these could potentially last much longer than that, 8 or 10 year cell life, and still have reasonably good range. And so you get the cycle life advantages, and of course it's not 1,200 pounds. In fact,
Right.
you'd be down 180, 200
Yeah, a couple
pound
hundred
pack,
pounds, yeah.
and have a dancing car, and always have the option to buy more batteries later.
Yeah.
If you want to get the 100-mile range.
Yeah.
But my wife's been driving an electric car. She never 35, 40 miles. That's it.
Yeah, that Edge
She
only
just
has
doesn't
40
ever
40-mile
go that
range.
far.
Yeah. Yep.
So we're going to take a look at some of that. But you're right, Brian. I think our prophecy of what would happen with these poor value OEM cars has come to pass.
Yeah.
Pretty much the way we said it would.
Yeah, they're just,
And,
yep.
Yeah, they've sold a few to the low-hanging fruit people who really are desperate to have an electric
Yeah, that really
car,
want an electric car, yeah.
that have heretofore had to make one. But I think there's a dawning awareness. I've heard from a guy with New York Times Magazine, Popular Science, or is it
Popular Mechanics, I think, yeah.
contacted us. There is a dawning awareness that the real activity is with the DIY crowd, the do-it-yourself.
Yep, yeah, with our viewers.
Converting their car, bicycle, lawnmower, boat.
Yeah, that's right.
and so
Anything.
forth, to electric using these new lithium cells. And I think it's that the whole thing is steering a little bit our direction.
Yeah.
And that's the other big boost is apparently the Obama and the Iranians are not.
Oh, there's
not
a little
getting
mess going
along
on, no.
real well.
No.
And they're talking about shutting down the Straits of Hormuz.
Yeah.
And the U.S. response has been, you better not.
Yeah.
Or else. And the Iranians have, that's
yeah,
not been an effective
No, like, or what?
negotiating thing with Iran for us in the past.
Yeah.
And so if we approach that with our ineptitude previously shown by this administration in such matters, we could be having some pretty
be seeing
serious increases in the oil price this
Yeah.
year. So,
Yep.
Dwayne Ball,
Uh-huh.
one of my favorite
Yeah,
guys,
right,
up
right.
in Ballston Lake, New York,
In New York, yeah.
with Astrochem.
Yeah, yeah.
Dwayne still, I don't think the man knows what he's got there. He has converted one of very few. In the first place, Porsche made the 1964 Porsche Carrera GTS.
Yeah, yeah. I think that was their only fiberglass car, their first
their first
first
fiberglass
fiberglass vehicle. Yeah.
They only made 100 of them for sale just to get them on the track.
Yeah, to
There's
homologate
few
them.
survivors. They're a very attractive car.
Yeah.
For 1964, and they call it the 904 commonly, but it was officially the Porsche Carrera GTS 1964 model. Chuck Beck has done a replica of it and sold
Not many.
a dozen,
Yeah,
or
I mean,
less
they're-
than a dozen of them.
because they're really handmade and
Yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah, I think the rollers start at $55,000.
I think so. Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
they're a heavy fiberglass body and tricked
He's got
out
that aluminum
suspension
in it,
and
tricked out
everything.
suspension. Yeah, beautiful car.
It winds up being a beautiful car.
Yeah.
I can't actually get in the car. I'm delighted with this because otherwise,
Otherwise, we would have bought,
I'd be
bought one.
tempted
That's
to do
right.
one like
We'd be
Dwayne's.
55 grand later.
But I tried to sit down in Dwayne's and I can't. You would have to send food in if I did get in, and actually that would be the only way I'd get out is if you didn't. And I gradually, over days and weeks, lost enough weight to get back out.
Melted
of the car.
away.
But it's a gorgeous
It is.
vehicle.
Yeah.
He did. His wife got him a. What's our little camera? GoPhoto.
A GoPro?
GoPro
Yeah.
for Christmas.
Oh, okay. That's what Dwayne's been doing.
Here's Dwayne Ball.
Yep.
And his drive up in New York in the last week, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the Porsche 904, and you can tell the acceleration's pretty good.
Pretty good car. NetGain Controls introduces the new Warp Drive Industrial Controller. The Industrial is designed to handle a maximum of 1400 amps and up to a 360 volt nominal battery pack. The unit's rugged design looks and works great in the automotive environment while protecting it from the elements. In addition to higher continuous currents than the classic Warp Drive controller, the Industrial comes with several major enhancements. Liquid cooling is available and uses leak-free and rugged AN fittings. The Industrial controller has complete isolation on both throttle channels, giving the highest possible immunity from situations that might affect the electrical throttle input. High voltage connections are fully protected underneath the sealed cover. Voltage leaks between vehicle chassis and a battery pack are detected, alerting the user to potential safety problems. Controller settings can be completely customized using the NetGain Controls interface module, which can also log data to an onboard SD card. The controller weighs in at 25 pounds. Visit www.ngcontrols.com to order your Warp Drive Industrial Controller now.
Well, Jack, it's January 7th, and it's 42 degrees out, and I just rode out to the plant to take a ride in the 904. It's going to be in the 50s today. I thought it'd be fun to take a ride and use my little GoPro camera Cindy got me for Christmas, and take a video for the viewers of a ride in the 904 from the inside, and just take a little ride on some country roads out near the plant. We'll head up towards Round Lake, and maybe we'll go on the interstate for a few miles and show the folks that driving an EV is not like driving a golf cart. So Scott and I have not done very much to the 904. since EVCon, we put in a new DC-DC converter. That's about it. And we all know that they're the weak link in EVs, although the equipment's getting much better now. So we'll take a ride out this country road by Lakeside Farms, by a couple of horse stables we just passed on our right that board horses and give riding lessons. The 904 has been pretty awesome. We just haven't done anything. Our instrumentation is pretty simple. We use our GPS for speedometer and odometer, but all the only other instruments we have are the Expert Pro for ampere hours used and our gas gauge, so to speak. And then we have our two temperature controllers with digital readout in red that you can see on the dashboard to the right of the Expert Pro. And the top reading is our temperature for our controller, the Soliton one, and the lower one is reading the temperature of the face of the 11-inch net gain motor that we placed the thermistor there on a bolt head on the brush end of the motor, which is the warmest end, of course. We're trying our new camera. There's a couple of settings that makes an adjustment for the dark interior of a car looking out at a bright outside light condition through the windshield. So we'll see how this video comes out. And I tried a couple of test cases, and it was pretty noisy actually. For some reason the GoPro sounded quite noisy when I was commentating while I was driving, so this is just a voice overlay that I did after I made the initial recording. And we can adjust the volume of both, so hopefully it'll be reasonable to put up for your viewers. So we're only going to do, I don't know, maybe a 10-12 minute ride here. I'm just amazed that both of these EVs that we built, neither of which we've ever taken the motors back out. Once we put them in, they've stayed in pretty much. I don't think you've taken the motor out of the Spider, and except for a bolt that slipped out of our linkage in the 904, this car has been trouble-free. So as you can see, we just came on the Northway. We're up to internet speeds here, and with no trouble. And we're gonna only go about a mile down the road, and we'll get off and loop back, come south, and head back to the plant. We're just getting off here at Malta. Kind of a crazy rotary here that they just put in, and a little confusing for the old folks. That'd be me. but it's also, you gotta watch the yield signs with tractor trailers. 904 is a pretty low profile car. Might be hard to see from the cab in an 18-wheeler. So this is one of my standard routes. Make this little loop up north so I can get on the interstate. So we're going to accelerate smartly here and pass this car that's ahead of us. And we'll take the car right up to speed, no problem. Just shifted to 5th gear. And we're going to be up around between 85 and 90 miles an hour pretty quickly. And then we're gonna slow down here to the low 80s and get ready to get off our exit here at Round Lake and head back to the plant. The weather's just been amazing here in upstate New York. We just haven't had any snow, and it's weather report says the next 10 days we're not going to have any snow, so ski areas aren't liking it, but it's great if you don't like to shovel. So this is a little village around Lake, and we're going to take a right here and head back to the plant. Well, we're pretty close to the end of our ride, and we're just headed back by a couple of places that we eat lunch once in a while. And we'll be headed down a long hill here to the right. Here's our horse farm again. It'll be interesting to hear your viewers' reaction to a video, an in-car and an electric car. I know you've done several of them. This is a little off-camber left-hand turn here that's been dangerous in the wintertime. It gets slippery and people end up in that guardrail on the right-hand side. So we're just about at the plant here, and we're going to take a right-hand turn and a quick left. And I'll keep the video running, Jack, so you can see our little driveway into the plant, and you'll catch a glimpse of my parking spot in front of the plant every day, and my garage down to the right is where I'll end up. So if the weather holds, we'll take another ride. Otherwise, I'll see you in the spring, Jack.
Dwayne, thanks.
That's pretty cool. Postcards from the edge.
Yeah,
I like that.
Nice. No, it's a good,
nice.
good thing, because it again, a lot of people just don't know what it's like to be in.
To drive. Yeah, that's right.
That one has plenty of go power with a Warp 11.
Yep.
An Avnetic Soliton 1.
Yeah.
And
Car
pretty
runs
light,
good. Yeah.
Pretty light car. I think he's at 23 or 2,400 pounds of that thing.
Yeah, I drove it
So
when
he-
we're out here at the show.
he
It was a
gets-
nice car.
He gets 100-mile range, great
Yep.
acceleration.
Gotta love it.
And now you see what it looks like on the inside. To
Yep.
be in the
To
driver's
be in the
seat.
driver's seat. Isn't that
And,
nice?
and to feel this out driving around. And this is a car you get in and just drive. He's changed the DC to DC converter since they built it.
Yeah.
And he gets in it and drives it. It's winter time and
Yeah. And in
Lake
New York. Yeah.
And that's Dwayne Ball.
Nice.
tooling around
Nice,
in
Dwayne.
his, thing. That's
Way to go. Thanks.
John Allen.
Oh yeah. Saw him a couple weeks ago,
Well,
guys.
he's been sending regular
Yeah,
updates.
yeah.
He is came to the convention.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
He's also in New York. Has a Toyota, and he's redoing it. And you can't fault the man for enthusiasm.
No, he's.
Let's take a look here.
Well, hi Jack and Brian, John Allen from New York. I trust everyone survived the holiday season and New Year celebrations. It's been a busy week here again after all of that. And this week I worked on my motor. I had a motor squeak, so I want to show you that. And the remedy for that, once talking to George Hamstra and Tom Bunker about how to get over the squeak that I had in my motor. I had been spraying a lithium grease in there, and it's in sort of it got rid of the squeak for a short time, and then it would come back. And they looked at me in sheer horror when I told them about that. However, they did tell me how to clean it, and I've got that to show you this week. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, that's it. That's the noise I'm getting. So I have the motor and transmission out, and I'm going to get this down on the ground, and then I can take off the motor, remove it from this old transmission, and then put my new or my new second-hand transmission on. After I've got all the clutch and the adapter plate and everything fitted on. But first of all, I have a squeaky motor, so I'm going to actually clean this motor the way Tom Bunker suggested, with the garnet paper on the commutator, and I'm going to go ahead and get that organised. It looks like the coupling and everything is fine. There's no wear on this rubber Buna Spider, whatever it's called. It's great. Gradually opening this up, and let's see, I've got some wires here, and the last time I spoke with George Hamstra from NetGain Motors, I asked him about these wires, and he said, oh, you can just cut them and we won't use them. So I think I'm going to do that. Now then, let's see. Brush. Alright, there's one. There's two. Cut them off and then clean it up once I get that head off. What's that? This is the ML1693 brush, and I'm gonna just have a quick look to see how long that is. It looks like I've got 1 inch and 11/16 from the longest point where the curve starts. Yeah, almost, hang on a minute, almost 1 inch and 3/4. So I don't know quite exactly where it's gone, you know, what the point is at which it's too worn. Maybe you might be able to help me out, George, and let me know looking at it. Plus, you know, I'm just wiping it with a rag to clean it off. Maybe if I'm doing anything wrong, hopefully you can let me know on an email. Anyway, that's what that is. I might need to get some new brushes for this. I'd like to get the ones from Hellwig. Actually got all these things undone. See what we've got here. Okay, the really long bolt. An Allen wrench, oops. Number 4. That's just slid off. Oh, yes. Okay, what have we got here? Okay. Looks like there's some shims. Looks like a spring shim. Right, there's a funny shaped shim here. See that? And another one. on the inside. Okay, that must be to hold that bearing in. So sprung shim. Let's put that in the way it came out. On top of that. Okay, double sprung shim. Looks like they're shaped the same way, it's just there's two of them together. If you can see that. And they're in the same hole like that. Obviously to hold this bearing back in there. Okay. So this is the commutator, and it looks, I don't know what it's supposed to look like. There's some gunk on there. Probably from the brush when it was sitting there. You can see how much gunk there is in there. I think that's all the grease that I sprayed in there, this lithium grease. Which I'm sure didn't help the matter much. Well, actually it did at the time. It was great because it stopped the squeaking. But I've got to try and clean all that off now. I'll probably use some gasoline or something like that. Not sure if I'm doing exactly the right thing, but I don't want all that muck in there. And they say a man who never made a mistake never made anything. At least that's what my stepfather Tug Wilson would say. So go ahead and do it. If it feels right, go for it. If you make a mistake, you learn from it. Well, I have nobody here to guide me. I need to get the job done now. So I have here some 80 grit garnet paper which I bought at my local hardware store, and I'm going to cut this into 3-inch strips because that's the width of the commutator, and then I'm going to be able to get 3 pieces out of this and use that on the initial cleanup. So here's my paper. Just put that on there like that. Turn it around a bit. Okay, that seems to be cleaning it up nicely. So now I'm going to use a strip of 180, so it was the 80, then the 180, and then I'll finish up with a 220. Tom Bunker described to me how to go about cleaning this, and then also he said to take the edges off. I've got a file here, I've done the first one, and I marked it here so that I know where I am. And I'm just going to take those sharp corners off. It says this is going to take about 4 hours to do this, to clean this. I see why. See the stuff that's coming out of there? See all that stuff that's coming out? That's what you're going to try and get out, I think. There it comes. So I have the motor all assembled again with the brushes put back in, and I've set it up on the bench here so that I can run it and seat the brushes again. I've got it hooked up to a charger. It's a CarQuest charger that I had around. Yes, I have it set up on the 12 volt 2 amp slow charge setting, and you know, this is quite good because I have an on-off switch here. I can hold or put it on a timer. Obviously I'm going to try and run it for about 5 days as recommended, but I'll probably only run it during the day when I'm in the shop, so I'll probably take about 10 days to do it. We'll see how that goes. So back to the bench here. I'm about to switch it on and see how it sounds. Well, it seems to be pretty noisy. I thought this would be quite a bit quieter, but maybe it's just a case of the brushes need time to seat in because I had them all out. Anyway, you can see how noisy that was, that motor, and I'm not sure if George could let me know if that's normal. It seems a bit noisier than it should be. Maybe it's normal and the brushes do need to be seated in. Anyone who has any light they could shed on that would be great to let me know whether there's something actually wrong with the motor. Maybe there's a vibration in there that's just not going to go away. I don't know. It doesn't feel like there's any vibration, so I'm not certain. But maybe someone who knows about these things will be able to hear it and be able to at least tell me what's going on, or whether I should just continue running it, let the brushes seat. I would like to try those red top brushes that Tom Bunker makes. Anyway, that's me, John Allen from New York for EVTV. Have another great week, guys.
John, you're a little dangerous.
You see something, huh?
Should he be in that motor? I'm
I'm
gonna
not
tell
quite
George
sure.
on him.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
right.
know
I
if
know. What's he doing in there? Get out of that motor.
Not too sure that's what Tom Bunker was describing.
Yeah, that's
him
right.
Cutting through the edge of the
On the, yes.
commutator and
Yeah.
so forth. I'm not going to get
Yeah.
inside the motor to that degree. But good work,
Yeah.
John. I hope that all works out
And we
for
get
you.
to see all the parts, man. You gotta
Yeah,
love all the
it
episodes
was fun
he sent
to see
us.
the inside of it.
Yep,
And so,
absolutely.
good video work, and we appreciate the input.
Yep, absolutely.
What else do we have?
Let's see. Let me think of what else. Well, they did. You know, Elon Musk did a interview, and he actually said that February 9th, they gave a hard date. They're going to unveil the Model X,
Yeah, that's right.
and that's getting.
The Model X Tesla, the
Yeah.
crossover. Let's see. The Swallow. Are we ever going to finish this car?
Yeah, we are. We have had some issues with pedals. We've had wiring. We found a lot of the wiring melted in the main wiring.
We're going to try something here. I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to do a whiteboard session about the controller and wiring it up,
Okay.
which is most of wiring up the car.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that at a whiteboard session without sans whiteboard.
Okay. We're gonna
Using our green
using our green screen. All right, Mr. Green Jeans.
So we'll see how this comes out.
Okay, cool.
This episode of EVTV is brought to you by the Winston Battery Company Limited, makers of high-capacity lithium-yttrium rare earth cells, including the popular 160 amp-hour model featuring cycle lives in excess of 5,000 cycles when discharged to 70%, the longest useful working life of any available battery of any chemistry. A leading battery technology scientist, inventor, and entrepreneur since 1995, Mr. Winston Chung envisions a new world of clean electric power for the dawn of a new era of electric vehicles. For your next electric vehicle design project, contact Winston Battery Limited. Energy for a bright future. Okay, this is our first show of 2012. If we get it done this week, we didn't get one done last week. I know a lot of you have been talking about that, and we're giving up EVTV because we didn't make enough money and so forth. It's unfortunate. I fussed at Brian in the last show of 2011. That really doesn't have anything to do with it. We've been trying to do some innovations, and we've been failing daily. I have blown up a bunch of test equipment. We've played around with several battery module configurations, and we're doing a lot with our video. And today, we're going to try something else risky and stupid in public, and that is we're going to do our first whiteboard session of 2012 without a whiteboard. It's just something I do. Today, we're going to talk about our Swallow, and we're going to go over the schematic for the Swallow, and primarily talk in some detail about how you hook up the Curtis 1238-7601 controller that we're using in Lee Moorhead's Swallow that we've been rebuilding. We really like this package. It's from HP EVS, is where we get it, High Performance Electric Vehicle Systems in California. They take a Curtis 1238 and marry it with a motor that they get from Leeson or somebody, their design. They've been in the electric motor business for many, many years. And they've put together a package that I think is fairly bulletproof and a very good, low-cost AC solution for light vehicles. And that is, I would say it's an excellent choice for anything 2,600 pounds and below, unless you're just wanting monster power. It's a great little system, 110, 120 foot-pounds of torque, nominally a 50K motor, but we've gotten 70, 80K out of it several times. The way Curtis markets their controllers is that they provide them to people who then couple them into products. And they have a software program called VCL, a compiler, where you can actually write in kind of C-like syntax code for these controllers. And then the controller in the field, you can set several various variables to change its characteristics. VCL is the compile language that they use in it. And of course, HP EVS has developed their own version of that. Put it in the controller. We use this package quite a bit, and I think we're going to use it quite a bit more in the future as we start taking a look at lighter and less costly vehicles in 2012. In any event, I like the package. We've done 2 cars with it, the Spider and Speedster Duh. Speedster Duh is my favorite conversion at EVTV. If I'm driving for pleasure, that's the set of car keys I take. And it has a little HP EVS in it, 36 cal cells, it's light, and it just dances down the road. It's a beautiful car, and probably the best conversion we've ever done. Could be the best we'll ever do. We'll do more advanced ones, but it's just an all-around very nice. I was very pleased with how that came out. So we're going to use them some more this year. The Curtis controller, there's a lot of rumors out about that, about going to a higher voltage. Right now it's a 96 volt controller is how it is cast. It has an upper limit that we have tested and have been advised of 130 volts right now. And they're talking about coming out with a 145 volt version that was supposed to be fairly imminent. It's now looking somewhat spring-like. HP EVS, in the meanwhile, has mentioned the distinct possibility of them coming out with a 9-inch motor. Their motors are a little over 8 inches, a little bit larger motor at 9 inches, and water-cooled, and we like water-cooled. They have also done a chill plate for the Curtis controller, and a lot better job than we did. It's a lot simpler device, and works fine, lasts a long time to get heat away from the controller. As you know, the controller is how we translate a throttle position into a command to our motor to control the amount of power applied to the motor to go forward. And so the Curtis controller has been around for many years. It's been a staple in the EV. But any controller, you'll get the best life and the best power out of it if you keep it within its thermal constraints. And Curtis, like almost all manufacturers, will give you a specification and a rating, but that's based on a certain temperature, and it's kind of up to you to keep it at that temperature. Thermal considerations are important if you want to extend the life of your controller and its performance. There's 3 basic ways to ensure proper cooling for your controller. One is very simply a big expanse of aluminum that it's attached to. Aluminum is an excellent conductor of heat, and there's not a tremendous amount of heat produced by these controllers, but you need to get it away. It's very concentrated. And so a big aluminum plate is an ideal conductor, and Curtis recommends a minimum of 1 square meter of aluminum plate under their controller. That's pretty much the direction we've gone to with the Swallow, is we've got a whole shelf back here for equipment made of a very lightweight aluminum that wicks heat away, and it's got tons of air over it, so I think it's going to be an excellent thermal sink. If you have less room, you have to go to a finned heat sink, and you can buy this material on eBay. It's simply finned aluminum that you can mount on the bottom of the controller. If that doesn't cut the trick, you can add a fan to that and have the fan blow air over across the fins of the heatsink, and that'll provide additional cooling. In extreme cases, or in cases we get into sometimes where we simply do not have the room for the bulk of that, the least space and the most efficient way to move heat is, of course, with water. And we use glycol water mixture and set up a water cooling system. And I like this because we can move the heat away from the controller very quickly and dispose of it where we want to. What I don't like about it is it's about $800 in components. We get them from Summit Racing, very nice ones. You can do it for less money, but you basically have to have a chill plate with water going through the aluminum, a pump, a way to add glycol water to the system, a little can with a top on it, and then a heat exchanger somewhere else where you get rid of the heat. And so that's the 3 ways of dealing with heat. Let's take a look at our controller. I have it here, hopefully larger than a whiteboard. And you can see over here, the 3 main terminals to the motor are U, V, and W. That's our 3 phases. Again, it is an AC system that we're using. They really don't matter as much as you think, but the motor is labeled U, V, and W, which is traditional for the 3 phases, and so is the controller clearly marked. Interestingly, with a 3-phase AC induction motor, which is what this is, we can actually reverse the motor by swapping any 2 phases. And that's quite doable, but we also have a configuration in the controller to swap 2 phases. And so if we accidentally swap two phases and want the motor to turn the other direction, we can do it with a software configuration using our Curtis 1311 configuration device, which we'll show you later. So that's our 3 terminals there. On the other side of the controller, we have 2 terminals that are B plus and minus pack voltage, and that's where we get our power in. If you notice, we're using a contactor to connect to the B plus. That's kind of important with this controller. The Curtis develops an internal power supply of 12 volts and 5 volts using kind of a pulse width modulated chopper inside to step down the voltage from the pack voltage. There is actually no 12 volt connection to the Curtis controller, which is very unusual. It runs entirely from the pack voltage. But I suppose this is to keep people from having to have a DC to DC converter in a forklift application. It makes its own 12 volt supply, its own 5 volt supply from the pack voltage, and therein lies a tail and a huge problem for us in the case of this one. In any event, your normal contactor will not work. The Anderson contactors and the various ones that may be a favorite out there. EVS is very specific about which contactor you must use with this. It has a 24 volt coil. We've tried 2 other contactors with 12 volt coils in series. No dice, doesn't work at all. And this is the Tyco Kilovac LEV200 A5 NAA relay. And of course it isn't actually a contactor, it's a high current relay, and we're going to use it to apply power to our controller. The controller, like many devices in an EV, has an input capacitor where if you suddenly apply your 120 volt pack voltage, in this case we're going to be up around 126 volts, the inrush current would normally blow the capacitors. And so we have various means of hooking up our controllers with bleed resistors to pre-charge the capacitors before we turn it on. Curtis takes care of this for us to some degree, and but we have to do a little bit about it. This is a normal automotive relay, and we have that actually mounted on the base of the contactor, and it is actuated by our ignition switch voltage. We simply have switched 12 volts from the ignition switch on the column, turn on this relay. It takes a sample of B plus on the contactor and applies it to pin 1 of, if you'll look right here, we have a rectangular control plug where all of our connections to between the controller and the car, other than our main power and the 3 phases, enter the controller. It only has 1 plug. It's a pretty nice receptacle, and EVS sends it, you know, kind of pre-wired to some degree. We've got it kind of a mess right now, if you'll notice, but there's a reason for that. In any event, let's put up the diagram of the schematic, and we see that what this does is apply our pack voltage to pin 1, which is labeled KSI of that control. That stands for key switch input. That's pin 1. It's a blue wire in their harness, and it's pin 1 of the connector, and that is going to be our B plus voltage of 126 volts in this case. The contactor uses that, the controller uses that to pre-charge its own internal capacitors. And when they get up to speed, it provides that 12 volt output, which comes out main contactor coil pin 6 on our diagram here. and that is an orange-white wire that goes to the coil of our contactor. And the other side of the contactor is connected. Vehicle ground will not do. You have to bring this back to the coil return pin 13 on our diagram, and that is the coil return. And so with this automotive relay, we apply the B plus to pin 1. It finishes the pre-charge and outputs a signal. It's actually a 12-volt signal to the 24-volt coil of this contactor. But that's what they've got worked out, and it works pretty well. If you try to use another high-voltage relay type contactor, it normally will not work with this controller. And so that kind of gets the controller on. Let's talk a little bit about bringing our controller up from there as part of our power up sequence. You'll notice that there is a pedal interlock on pin 9. This is an input that has to have the 12 volts signal. The menu button, pin 10, puts out a 12 volt as well. Here's 12 volt power control, pin 25, and that has to be connected to our pedal interlock pin 9. Most accelerator, not most, but some accelerators, some throttle pedals actually have a little micro switch in them in addition to the pot. And this is an additional safety where the controller would not normally operate unless this switch was engaged. The particular pedal we're using doesn't have that switch. So we've done something a little different. This is Dave Kurzel, Modular EV Power, down in Florida. Makes a cunning little device, $35, $37 I think he's up to now. It used to be $31, but it's a neat little device for setting up your vehicle to work with J1772 SAE standard for plugs, 2010 version for level 2 charging. And we use this in all of our cars now, and are installing J1772 on Lee's Swallow. As you can see on the right hand of the device, you have your 12 volt supply from the car, chassis ground, a pin called Prox, and one called Pilot. Pilot and proximity switch are two of the lines from the J1772. What we want to talk about, though, is on the other side of the board, and that is NO, C, and NC here along the device. That is an auxiliary relay that Dave provides on his J1772 board. C and NC, C stands for your common or center wiper of a relay, and NC is the normally connected contacts, or normally closed is what NC stands for. The NO is normally open. What we're going to do, let's go back to our diagram. We're going to take the 12 volt power control signal or supply out of pin 25 and loop it to our C or common wiper on that relay. And then we're going to take NC, the normally closed contacts, and we're going to connect that to this pedal interlock on pin 9. Pin 9 up here, we have to have 12 volts there, and it has to be the 12 volts from the controller, not 12 volts from your DC to DC converter, in order for the controller to provide any forward motion. What does this do? If we connect our J1772 connector to the car, what happens to our normally closed terminals is detecting the proximity switch and the pilot signal. Our little AC module from Dave Kurzel is going to close that relay and connect C to the normally open contacts. What that does is breaks the connection to the controller. And what that accomplishes for us in this case is it opens the interlock to the controller while we have the J1772 connector plugged in. When we remove it, this relay will again de-energize, applying the 12 volts from the controller back to the controller pedal interlock input pin 9, and we're good to go. On our controller, we have another function that we can cover, and that is the additional connections to the motor. We mentioned the 3-phase connections. We also have a multiple conductor cable that HP EVS gives us that just snaps on to the encoder at the rear of the motor. If we look at our diagram, we can kind of see where some of those go. One, we get 5-volt power and an I/O ground from the controller. The ground comes from pin 7, and the 5 volts comes from pin 26 and comes across and down to the multiple conductor cable through P4 to the motor encoder on the end. The motor encoder gives the controller shaft position, basically, in 2 phases, phase A and B, out of that cable and back to pins 31 and 32 down here on the connector, encoder phase A and B. And that's an important signal to operate the motor. The other one, which is not terribly important, but you can interlock it and display it on your Curtis 840 display, is motor temperature sense, which we get in pin 8 up here on our connector, and that connects to a motor temperature sensor. And let's see, that ties back into the I/O ground. So it's a very simple circuit from ground inside the controller through our motor temperature sensor down here and back in to pin 8 of the J1 connector on the controller. And so that's some of our motor connections. We do have our 840 display and a menu button that we have to hook up. Let's see, we have our I/O ground, pin 7, goes through another multiple conductor cable that he's already got wired for us going to it. We also have the 12 volt power from pin 25 that goes to our display. And then we have 2 serial connections, pin 28 and 29 of the controller. This serial connection is very interesting. It's a lot of people are trying to use that to get data to put on other kinds of displays, and that works pretty well, but it takes some work. This is actually an inverted 5 volt TTL signal. It's not a standard 12 volt RS-232 serial, and so you have to do a little bit of work with buffers and converters and so forth to get that into a format you can use on the computer. Curtis does sell a software version of their programmer with a cable to do that, but a number of people have come up with little hack workaround circuits, cables that you can hook up to get that. We also use this cable, which goes to the 840 display up on the dash. If we unplug that from the display, we can plug that into the Curtis 1311 handheld programmer, and that's how we normally deal with the variables that many configuration items that you can set in the controller. The primary purpose of the controller is to take a throttle input, which we normally have from a foot pedal. It could be from a twist hand grip on a bicycle or something, but some sort of user input to control forward speed of the vehicle. We've been very high on these low car drive-by-wire pedals, despite their very high cost of, these are about $434. They are anodized aluminum and have a nice pedal, and it's really a Williams Control pedal unit that is used with the Curtis We're advised. We have run into a serious problem in that 2 of these pedals we have tried with the Curtis controller, and they simply do not appear to work. We've also tried 2 controllers with one of the pedals, and it doesn't get any better. The problem seems to be a surge current when you first power up into this pedal. The pedal is a Hall effect position sensor that receives 5 volts from the controller and a ground return, and then it produces a signal output from 1 to 4.2 volts primarily on pin A of the connector. Pin B is ground and C is the 5 volts. And then D is a second signal that's about 0.5 to 2 volts, and then E and F are again ground and 5 volts. The concept here is to have 2 ratiometric outputs that can be used for a sanity check to make sure you're getting a good pedal signal. The Curtis could be set up to do that. It has inputs that could be done. It has not been implemented in the HP EVS version of the Curtis, with their VCL version, but it could be done, and we would hope that at some point they do make that available. They actually sell this pedal. Curtis sells the pedal. We could not get it to work with the device, and it failed in a very specific way. The 5 volts, if you look on our diagram, we get a pedal pot high out pin 15. That is our 5 volt supply, and we have that 5 volts at pin 15, pin 26, and pin 27 of the controller. It's shown not connected here, but both 26 and 27 have the 5 volts, and pin 15 does. Traditionally, you use pin 15 as your power for your throttle. When we hook that up, that output supply reads 5.25 volts with nothing connected to it. As soon as we hook up the pedal, it drops to 1.65 volts and latches there, and we cannot get an output out of the pedal. We have used a capacitor experimentally to load the capacitor up, then connect the pedal, and it works fine. So it's just the initial surge current. In fact, if I go read the current to the pedal, it's 9 milliamps. This takes no power at all. Our Curtis supplies the 12 volt, the 5 volts together have a capacity of 200 milliamps. We're advised in the Curtis manual. More than enough to drive this pedal, but the initial surge on the pedal, we're having difficulty getting it to work. What have we done there? Well, let's take a look at our other inputs. Pin 18 is the ground or the return. And again, you can't use the chassis. You have to use this return into the circuit in the controller. And the wiper comes in pin 16 here. And that is the signal that we're going to use to modulate the output to the motor. And so it's a very important signal. We were unable to get this to work with these 2 pedals. We had 2 versions of this pedal, and we tried each of them, and it didn't work. And then we swapped the controller to a 1238-7501 we had around here, and that didn't help either. So it must be our wiring harness, right? Well, not exactly. We took a very, very tiny modular 12 volt to 5 volt DC to DC converter, that we use for some instrumentation things occasionally. Wired that into our DC to DC converter output and applied that to the high pin of the pot of the throttle, the Hall effect throttle assembly. We took the negative side of that return side of that 5-volt source and tied it to pot low at pin 18, so it would have a common base reference there. And we took the pedal output and applied it to the normal pot wiper pin 16. Works like a champ. We can drive the car. The output of the pedal's a little high because our 5-volt converter is putting out nearly 6 volts. By the way, you do not want to apply more than 8 volts to this pedal or it will destroy it. And so we've tried 3 pedals now from Williams. They sent us another pedal. So we have quite a mystery going, but we can cure it pretty easily by providing a 5-volt output. And this is a 1-watt DC to DC converter module, about a ½ an inch long, that I've got in a plastic box just to drop 12 volts down to 5 volts. It has a 200 milliamp output and 1 watt, and it's more than enough to drive the pedal. So we're not sure what the problem is. It can't be the Curtis controller because we've tried 2 of them. It can't be the pedal because we've tried 3 of them. And it can't be our wiring because if we hook up the DC to DC converter to the same connector end, it works fine. So it's a little bit of a mystery to us at the moment, but we are able to use the pedal with the converter, and so I wanted you to be aware of what was going on there. While we're on the diagram, this diagram was done by HP EVS, but I have penciled in a couple of things. If you look, you'll see a connection from pin 27 over here all the way up to the top of the screen, and it says plus 5 volts to a ugly little box that says brake transducer. We use an MEAXS pressure transducer that is connected to our brake line. And this will take 0 to 250 PSI pressure and convert that to a 0 to 5 volt input signal for the controller based on how much pressure is in the brake line. And you can actually map this with some configuration items in the controller to set the threshold of braking where your regenerative braking starts. You can also set the amount of current or the limit of power, how much regenerative braking you get, but you can map it across this brake transducer where you get a very precise feel of regenerative braking based on the brake pedal itself. And so the car has manual brakes, but it will feel a little bit like power braking because tied to the brake as the input, much as the accelerator is tied to the go part of the controller, the brake is going to be an input to the regeneration part. And it gives a very interesting sensation that you don't get on a lot of electric cars of getting more regenerative braking by applying the brake a little harder. This is a 0 to 250 PSI. You can get these at 0 to 500 or 0 to 1,000. We're advised that in a panic stop by HP EVS, they have always told us that we will lose these brake transducers if we put too much pressure on them. We have not had that problem. We have one on the Spider. We have one on each of. We have one on the Speedster, and this will be. We put one on the. We didn't put one on the Cobra. We're putting one on the Swallow. So far, we haven't had a problem with these. This is the smallest one we've used, but it's also the lightest vehicle, and we don't expect a whole lot of brake hydraulic pressure from it. but you can actually, using the 1311, connect it and move the brake pedal and see the voltage vary from about 0.8 volt input to about 4.25, and we can actually map that against our regenerative braking and get a very interesting feel. That shares the return with the throttle at pin 18. We're taking the power from pin 27 off of the connector, which it comes not wired, but it's easy to get these pins for the connector and wire that for the transducer. And the transducer output on his diagram is pin 17 not connected. Pin 17 is actually the input set up by HP EVS. They don't have it on their diagram, but they do have it set up in the controller for a brake input. And so that works pretty well. Final note on brakes. There is a brake relay output that uses pin 13, the call return, and the brake relay output on pin 3 you can use to activate a relay to apply 12 volts to your brake lights. We don't normally do that, but it's probably a good idea. I don't know why, I just don't get excited about doing that. But that output will, when you take your foot off the accelerator and it goes into regen, it will turn on your brake lights, which is appropriate because you're going to be slowing down. It's like braking, and so you should have your brake lights come up. I don't know why I tend not to do that, but that'll operate a normal automotive relay, the 12 volt relay. And so that's a good output that they provide you. Our menu button, pin 10 up here, you have to have that to apply the 12 volt power control out of pin 25 as an input. When you, and this button is provided you, that lets you change the display on the Curtis 840 and cycle through this display. It'll show you RPM, motor temp, controller temp, the amperage used, and the voltage of the pack. And so it's an ugly little display. It's cheesy looking, but it's actually quite informative and quite useful in this application. That pretty much wraps up our whiteboard discussion of our diagram of the Curtis 1238-7601 controller that we're using for the Swallow. And hopefully this style of whiteboard discussion will be a little easier to follow, a little more illustrative than me drawing badly on an actual whiteboard.
Well, if it worked, I like it. Yeah, I know. We've got a storm tracking.
My weatherman thing is we're going to keep working.
We'll get better at it.
This is going to get better.
Yeah. Go back, and if you haven't seen any of our videos from 2 years ago, it's a treat. You'll have a hoot.
And we have been doing a little bit of work on the Escalade. I know a lot of people are tracking that that program a little bit, and we haven't ever pulled the motor, but we've been working on the battery pack and the charger, the J1772 connection. Let's take a look at what's going on there.
Okay.
Okay, Brano, we're back on the Escalade.
Yes, we are. It's
We've made a little progress.
yeah.
Biggest battery pack I've ever seen. This is going to be kind of cool. The I've made a little bit of progress. What's did you talk to the guys at Sling Blade?
Yeah, they do have a prospect for us to get rid of that engine out of this Escalade. Guy's doing a project over there. I think it's a Chevy, either a Bel Air or something, a 62, 64, that he's kind of excited about the motor.
So he's going to give us $170,000 for a Cadillac engine?
At least, yeah. At minimum.
No,
We'll have to talk him off of it.
what do we get?
$4,000.
$4,000. Okay,
Yeah.
behind door number 4.
Yeah.
But
He's got to come and extricate it from its current location.
Release it from its environs.
It's bondage.
That means we don't have to pull it.
No.
And you know, a number of people I've heard of have done this thing with their EVs, given the engine away or sold it, and got the guy they sold it to as part of the deal to pull the engine.
Yank the engine.
And that's it's a lot of work. You kind of have to be there for that. We want to keep the throttle body, the MAF sensor, you know, a few pieces, air conditioning thing, power steering, and
stuff. Yep.
but yeah, you can have the engine. I don't think it's got 8,000 miles on it. The fuel goes bad in this truck. I've made a little bit of progress. Recall when last we spoke, we got our braided straps from EV Works in Australia. I had them for 6 months. They're the wrong size for the 400 amp hour cells.
Yeah.
I contacted EV Works, and their solution, you know what it is?
Right.
They're going to fix it on the website and remove the reference to 400 amp hour cells.
Oh, that's nice. That's helpful.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. In the meantime,
And they
these
threw
don't
me under the bus.
Yeah, these don't work.
I cut the ends out of them,
Yeah.
and so they'll kind of reach, but that cuts down on the amount of material that we have on the thing. So I was trying to find an alternate source in China.
Okay.
I got to tell you, it's been a thing. 42 electronic mail messages with He Tu Chen. I'm so deep in China, they don't bother to adopt American names anymore. No Margaret or Louis or Jimmy. This guy, I get his Chinese name.
Okay.
And his English is just about on par with my Mandarin.
Okay.
And so this has been rough sledding.
Been interesting.
And we've sent some drawings back and forth and so forth. This is the NIU Electric Group Company Limited
Global.
of Wenzhou City,
Okay.
China. Wenzhou City is kind of, it's like their Japanese Akihabara or something. It's their electronics town.
Okay. Okay.
And this company makes various high current things really for power transmission and ground straps. And so they do a lot of copper braid work.
Braided stuff. Okay.
This is what I got. It's not only acceptable, I'm delighted. And at half the price we were paying at EV Works, even with shipping, the problem is you got to buy 10 Brazilian of them
Yeah.
to get them.
To get them. Yeah.
So if anybody needs these, I can't say I'm going to make them available cheaply, but we're probably going to get into this line of business. Nobody's really in the States carrying these straps and the good 18/8 stainless bolts and the Nordlock washers, and we've had such good luck with that. I think we're going to make little battery kits. This is copper braided, and then it's milled out. Now our other ones really were about the same thing. The ends and so forth, you didn't really notice it. The ends aren't finished and the inside of the hole isn't, but your surfaces and the rest of it is tin plated, kind of a silver tin lead type thing to cut down on corrosion.
Yeah.
And the interesting part on this is when I got them, and we got them now, they're the right length. I can get full area on that big terminal on the battery, and it's all working great. They got them here in 2 weeks. It took a month and a half of emailing back and forth.
Yeah.
I was certain the man had no idea what I was talking about, because I was absolutely sure I had no idea what he was talking about.
Between the two of you, yeah.
And then I had to send him $3,000 to get a bunch of these made up. I got 1,000 of our regular straps,
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool.
the 70 millimeter 8 and with an 8 millimeter hole. This is a 15 millimeter hole. These are 100 millimeters long on 67.5 millimeter centers for the thing. But one of the questions he kept having was what the cross section was.
Oh, okay.
This is 50 millimeters squared, or square millimeters. For this, I told him 100, and I am so glad I did.
These things are beefy.
These are twice as thick as the little ones we were getting from EV Works.
Yeah, they really
They're
are.
still quite flexible. They're the perfect size for our cells, and since we could conceivably carry 2 or even 3,000 amps, I'm told, in the Escalade, potentially, depending on which controller we wind up with, I'm quite taken with this. So Rod has got us all strapped up.
Yeah, I changed all the straps this week, yeah.
And you have cost me a little fortune here. Getting polycarbonate.
Right here.
Brian wants to show off the batteries.
People love to see the batteries.
They do, don't
They
they?
really do. Every time I've taken that Spider out, it's just like, what do the batteries look like?
The Dwayne Ball, when they built the Spider, just in the front, one
Yeah,
row
just in
of
the
them,
front, yep.
put them under polycarbonate, and everybody could see the batteries when he opened up the car. And you've taken that to a couple of
I've taken
local
a couple of car
shows,
shows and stuff.
and people are just fascinated with the cells.
Yep, they just love to see the cells. Yeah, when we took it to Carlisle, it was a big show. Yeah, they love to see the batteries.
So we did one box in the Cobra that way.
That's right, we did one, yep.
And this polycarbonate is, I think this is about $300 worth of polycarbonate. We get it from the same place I get most of our sheet stock. It's, I found a guy on eBay, but it's Online Metal Supply here in Missouri, actually.
Yeah, that's right. He is in Missouri, yeah.
And but he also carries some polycarbonates. And then I get some from Pop Displays. That's where I may have gotten it. But it was quite expensive. I think about $300. That's
it
not,
half-inch?
no, it's about 3/8, I
3/8,
think.
okay.
And it is sagging a little bit in the middle, and I can't get a piece big enough for our box. So I think we're going to run some sort of channel down here to brace it up in the
Pop it
middle.
up in the center, okay.
And that'll work pretty good. Maybe a hinge, I don't know. And you know, just kind of rig it up that way. So I think that will you know, brace it up. We're talking about putting the Manzanita charger up here on top.
Yeah, we measured it this
in the
week.
front.
We've got room, yeah.
That's a 75 amp charger. It's what Rich tells me. I get 65.
Yeah, we haven't really hit 75.
Well, I've been using kind of a long cord though,
Oh, yeah, that's right. We do use a long extension cord, yeah.
and that brings me to another little upgrade. Rod did a great job here on the side with our J1772 connector. It's the billet connector
Yes.
from David Kurzel with Modular EV Power. And Rod got it mounted in here with just, I told him I wanted just a little twist because we're going to be coming at it kind of from the back, and to where we could, I've got the a cord here, not hooked up to anything, but just the cord head, so he could see if he could stick it in there, and it's just perfect.
Yeah, he did a real nice job fabricating that.
So we'll wire that up to a Manzanita and have it sit on top here, and maybe even go in through the plexiglass to hook up to the terminals inside the box.
Oh, yeah, sure.
We could do that. And so that'll be fun. But yes, we're entertaining your
All right, well, thanks.
Desire.
Look at that. It's pretty good. It's a massive pack.
You know, it is the biggest battery pack I've ever seen.
Yeah, it is a massive
It's 76 kilowatt hours, and I guess we ought to show it. So we've got the good straps now.
Straps already in.
Again, that's the NIU Electric Group Company Limited of Winzhou City, and that's sales at NIUELEC.com is where I got that. And their service, pricing, delivery, I think I even paid them with PayPal.
That's what you were saying yesterday when they came. Yeah, that's amazing.
And this is pretty deep. I think this guy's with a factory.
Probably, yeah, for that type of service.
It's and got the stuff. These are custom made and got them here in 2 weeks.
A couple of weeks once you got all the design work.
Well, yeah, once we work through the communication issues, it's amazing. I cannot get that kind of service, price, and delivery from anybody here in the United States. And this man, I guarantee you, if we were in the room together, the conversation wouldn't last 12 seconds. Because I don't speak Mandarin, and he clearly doesn't do English. But we kind of, through email, cobble together an understanding, send back for some drawings and some pricing and an invoice, and here it is 2 weeks later, and it worked pretty good. So we're strapped up, we're working on the top. We're going to add the charger to it, and the J1772 connector is on board, on board, and then we'll have all that going. Be able to charge and discharge the battery pack. I'll probably hook the heater up or something so we can do that. And before we ever get the engine out and start working on the drivetrain. Again, the battery box is usually half the damn battle. And so if you'll get that hood off and the motor out of the way, I think this will go pretty quickly. I'm shopping on eBay for some motor mounts for our motors. And so we should be able to move this project along a little bit. That's what we're doing with the Escalade. Hang tight with this one. It's a big one and expensive. We're kind of, one of the things we're looking toward is what to follow the Escalade up with. This is kind of out of hand. We're going to be probably $160,000 into this one, counting the vehicle, which was $59,000. So I don't really expect everybody to do that. We're kind of doing it to prove it can be done. And it'll be interesting to see our mileage and range with this battery pack in the end. Originally, I wanted to do this with those lithium sulfur batteries, but they've never come available. But now I think we're going to go in another direction, and as a contrast to this, try to do some inexpensive vehicles with lighter weight and lighter batteries, and see where that takes us. And but that'll be a good contrast with the Escalade. All righty. Cool.
That's coming along. I mean, we trip over that damn car at least 5 times a day. We got to get it off that lift.
I need it for winter driving, and we're about to run out. We're going to get this done for spring.
I know. And global warming, there's no snow anywhere.
Right.
It snowed here, and it didn't even stick.
Right. We got to.
I think we're in the throes of global warming. We got to get rid of all the carbon-based economy here.
Well, we did solve the braided strap.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
And I'm either going to find one of our EV parts guys to do this, or we'll do it.
We could always do it if we have to. Yeah. But I think that's cool.
I think we're going to get the bolts and the zinc-coated Nordlock washers and the braided straps, and just offer them for sale. That'll give people a way to support EVTV.
There you go, and get something cool.
Yeah. A lot better battery connections.
Yeah, like a little connection package. Yeah.
Now you think they include those with your batteries? If you talk to them, it's actually they're charging you a couple of bucks.
They're paying you
for the little copper things and the lock washer. It's not good. You really need to tighten up those connections every month for the rest of your life. Yeah. And we've checked this, and they keep backing up.
Yeah. If you're using lock washers or wave washers,
they're not going to stay.
Yeah, they just don't stay with all that thermal expansion.
We've got this down pretty good. We knock the oxidation off with that foam block from
just
Lowe's.
Scrape it up a little bit. Yep.
And put on these braided straps with the Nordlock washers and the stainless.
With the bolts, stainless bolts,
M8 bolts. Well, in the Escalade, it's an M12.
Yeah, it's a monster.
And tighten those down, and the little braideds that we took off when we replaced the ones I'd cut the ends out. You could see, particularly with the large washer, Just
Yeah, it had the mark.
imprint
It was
of
imprinted.
the-
Yep, it really
of the
bit into
washer
there.
into it.
Yep.
We have over several years decoded how to strap up these batteries. Do me and yourself a favor and do it my way.
Yeah, it's just a
little more
lot-
money, and
But
it's
man, it's a lot less to deal with, and no
that thermal
fires.
cycling and vibration is going to get you. Somebody told me the other day they blew 2 batteries up. They didn't blow up the batteries; they blew the terminals.
The
off
terminals.
them.
Yep, that's what you do.
And
Yep.
yeah, it ruined the batteries, but the battery didn't blow up.
No.
You got a
Terminals
thermal
got hot,
on
yeah.
there. And it's not a serious thing when this happens. You don't blow up the car, burn down a car or anything, but it,
No.
it literally blows the terminal.
Whatever the
off
terminal is, yeah, it just melts the thing and pops it.
And
yeah.
that I've had that happen with lead acid cells.
Yeah.
You have to stay on the connections.
Yeah, I know. I like the system.
We've
is
come
pretty
up with a
good.
system that works pretty well, and you
Yeah.
don't really have to do all that.
No, a lot less maintenance.
Okay. I've got a little video from Mick of Australia.
Oh, okay,
I'm trying to find out more about this guy.
okay.
He won't quite tell me.
Maybe he's in the witness protection program in
It
Australia.
might be. And then I think he called with like a mechanical voice this week.
Oh, I think is that the guy that he said his vocal cords were?
Yeah, that might
gone or-
be him.
Okay.
He has done a module design using non-conductive plastic threaded rod that I really like and have been playing with.
Okay. All right.
And we're not going to show it to you this week. But we might next week. In fact, we might show you how to build it.
Okay.
I've got one pretty much completed.
Yeah. We just want to make sure
one
it's all
module.
good. Yeah.
But the result right now is a 40-volt module. About 20 inches long. What would you say? 9
like
inches?
about 9 inches,
wide?
yeah. And
About 7 and
yeah, about 7.
tall.
Yeah.
It was 62 pounds before I poured the resin around it. It's
Yeah,
going to be
yeah.
kind of a monolithic block,
Yeah.
and the 75 amp hour. And I think, and it's going to be safe to handle. It'll have 2 heavy terminals. And
Yeah.
so I think that's what we're going to try to design is a modular block like that that's encased in this resin I've been playing with.
Yeah.
So you can literally treat it like we do the prismatics, but it'll be a more of a vehicle size thing. 40 volts.
Yeah, 40 volts.
3 of them would drive a speedster.
You would be able to do your-
the HP EVS thing.
Yeah, with that Curtis
120
controller, yeah,
volts.
the 120 volt controller would be right there.
And you'd be right there downtown. 75 amp hours, you're not going to go far, but it would do.
But it's lighter too, you're going to get something back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It would easily do 16 or 1700 amps,
Yeah, which that drives like a car.
and
Yeah.
you've got to have some motor and some controller
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah.
But it would do 1,000 amp car easily,
Yeah, and the 650 like that Curtis controller would be beautiful.
and 3 of them would probably weigh about 200 pounds.
A couple hundred pounds.
225.
Yep. That's getting sweet.
And so with 48 A123s in it,
Yeah.
is what I'm working toward right now. So let me show you a mix little video that he was sent. It's just a little
Okay.
animation of how
Of
it
what it-
worked.
what it got-
And
okay.
this is kind of what we're working off of, and I like it. Same idea was tendered by Kelso Manaya.
Oh, we came to the show, yeah,
from
from
Lisbon,
Portugal. Yeah, yep.
And he basically proposed the same thing. But Mick actually did a little animation that sort of opened my eyes to what he was talking about, and we're following it fairly closely.
Cool.
Let's take a look.
Take a look. Yeah, that's looking familiar. Yep, okay. I like it. I like this, battery pack like this low weight, high power battery pack.
This is a big pain in the schwanz.
Yeah, it is.
It is so much easier to use the prismatics,
Yeah,
and a lot of them.
yeah.
And that's my story.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sticking
right.
to it.
It still is easier, yeah.
But I think we're going to have an option for you. where you can, if you want to do a lot of work putting together a module,
Yeah.
that I believe you'll be able to get these cells reasonably inexpensively and for some time.
Yeah. Yeah, and they saw, a couple of episodes ago how those batteries work. I mean, they put out some power.
A123 got this truck outfit that Bob Lutz is playing with.
Via Motors.
Via Motors.
Yeah, the Bob Lutz is with, yeah.
They've got them. So they're going to stumble along making
Yeah,
these
I think it has got something with BMW too. It's got to deal with, but they're making a cut 300 cars a year, But yeah, there should be some cells out there.
So what that probably means, these cells are going to be available.
That'd be great. They're nice
In the gray
cells.
market. We're not getting seconds or anything. I don't know. They're marked A2, but they're okay. 19 amp hours, 18 and a half amp hour
Yeah.
per cell. And they do okay.
Yeah, they're great cells. Yeah.
And well, we'll see if they're great.
Yeah.
Let me run
After
them
we
in a
test
car
them,
for a
after we
year
test them,
first.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We've done what testing we can.
We need
We're
to get
now,
some field tests.
Yeah, we got to get it in a car and go drive them for
Yeah.
a while and see how they hold up. But I think I've come up with a way to handle some of the issues of vibration and flexing.
Okay.
Thermal issues. They have, of course, A123's had an issue with Fisker
Right.
with their cooling system. I think they may have been too tricky by half. I think I've got another way of handling what reasonable heat you would have there. That's
Okay.
quite inexpensive and quite passive. You don't really have to do much.
Okay.
Although you would be able to add whatever level of heat removal you would want. With
Yeah.
this,
Yep. You can do whatever you want. Exactly.
process. And so we'll talk more about that next week. But I think it's going to be probably a bit more expensive for what you're getting, and quite a bit of more trouble. But it would allow a kind of a half step into an EV where you can do one with less battery.
Less battery and then less expense. Yeah. And
And
do a lithium ion
I'm kind
car.
of opening my eyes that for advanced users who don't mind range anxiety. See, I think we've crossed the threshold of viability with a 100-mile car. Well, most of my cars will go 100 miles.
100 miles. Yeah. Yeah.
80 easy and 100 in a press.
In a pinch. Yeah. Yeah.
Or if you drove it carefully. Not in January, not with a heater on, but
Right.
Same thing about like the Leaf. That's what these batteries do. But my wife's kind of opened my eyes to, like, if you're not really interested in all that and you just want a car in some place like Cape Girardeau, for a lot of people, 35 miles, she's going anywhere she wants to go. She just doesn't drive any more than that.
Right. You just don't. A few miles here, a few miles there, and at the end of the day, you really haven't accumulated that much.
So if you took a small car and an inexpensive car, a smart car, a Beetle, or something along those lines, and you did a half pack in it at half the weight and half the cost, you would have an electric car and be playing quite productively.
Yeah. You drive like a car. Yeah.
At
Do all the car
40
things.
40-mile range level, and at under $5,000 for the battery
Yeah.
is the goal.
Yeah. Yeah. Because now you're talking about what, lead acids are what, about 25, 3,000?
Careful shopping. Most of the guys claim they can get them for $2,500. I bet they don't get them in their driveway.
Probably because you still got to
$2,500.
ship those heavy suckers.
And so it's between $2,500 and $3,000 for lead acid, and they weigh 1,000 pounds. Picture 200 pounds, 20 times the life cycle,
Right.
and 200 pounds, and not 25 miles, but really between 30 and 40, maybe more. See, when you get that light
Just
on the
depends.
battery
Yeah. Oh,
pack,
yeah.
I don't know what
Me
happens
either.
to the-
Because now you got a light car and a light battery pack. Yeah.
You get that, watt hour thing down below 200 good. Neat things happen. So we're talking about a 10 kilowatt pack, you know,
might get 50 miles.
10,000 watt hours, and how far we could get in a light vehicle with something like that. Now you want to do a BMW 5 Series. This is
Yeah, that's not what's going to not going to work.
Although Damian McGuire has basically done this. This is not. I'm not having a brilliant stroke. There's been a few people out here playing with this, and it's kind of working. Damian McGuire has done a BMI 3 Series with headway cells this way.
Okay.
And same kind of thing. He winds up, 35, 40 mile range, but he's using modern batteries. He gets the life cycle,
Yeah.
The weight savings, and
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for that.
there
Yeah.
is a lot to be
Yeah.
said for that.
Yeah,
So
yep, absolutely.
that's kind of a direction we're going to look at in 2012. But yeah, our delays and inability to get a video out is just stuff going up in flames. Things I'm trying to do that don't work out. And
Yeah, we've been doing a
keep
lot of
trying.
stuff.
We're
It's
not going to do the same thing. Brian and I used to do a magazine trade show. The theory was if we could do that magazine 1% better every issue, which was monthly, after a certain serial number of issues, we win.
Yeah, that's right.
As it turned out, it was 133 issues. Or
Yes,
134.
that's right. Overnight
You
success.
stayed with them and did another
I stayed with
15 or
another.
20
That's right.
issues, but
Yes. Yeah,
I bailed.
that's right. Yeah.
He stayed
Yeah, we
with
did
them for
another-
a year and a half. We're pitting
almost
media.
2.5.
Yeah, is
Yeah, that
right?
was crazy. Yep. Yep.
And these guys just didn't get any part of it.
No.
And Brian would try to tell them, and they just like, oh no, though we don't do it that way in the big leagues, and they wound up drilling it into the ground.
It just went away. Yeah.
The ironclad franchise just handed to them.
Yikes.
5 years it was gone completely.
Yeah, absolutely.
The payment for it has lasted longer than the,
Yes.
the magazine. I'm pleased to report.
An annuity. Yeah, that's right.
And so we're kind of doing the same thing here, and that's why we're playing with the chroma key and the cameras and the audio. And we're probably not going to put Oprah Winfrey out of business.
No, I think Oprah's okay.
Or even the Colbert Report.
Yes,
Although I
that's
understand he's announced his bid for the presidency.
Oh, he does every year.
Super PAC.
Yeah, he does a super PAC, and he's a good guy
He's
from
running
South Carolina.
for president of the United States of South Carolina.
South Carolina, yeah.
And he's getting that off and running. So that'll be our choice for the
That's right. That's how we're going to do it.
2012 presidential race. Is,
Yeah, vote Colbert.
vote Colbert. And but that's we're trying to improve things. We're going to try to do better cars, and we're going to try to do better video in 2012. But it's two guys in a little town on the Mississippi River trying to do all this.
Yeah, we got.
And some weeks are better than others.
Yeah, but most of them are pretty good. I think most weeks are pretty good. I think our viewers would agree most of them are pretty good. And thank you everybody who sent in cards and letters and called and asked how we were doing.
As it so happens, I had just chewed Brian out for not selling any ads. And so, would you believe we've gotten, like a couple hundred people have put in donations of $5, $10, $20, and we appreciate it.
Yeah,
If we
thanks.
knew how I think we're between $4,000 and $5,000 now a month for Amazon bandwidth.
Yeah, because
charges.
our bandwidth charges are getting there.
It costs me a quarter or 30 cents every time somebody watches a full video. Fortunately, a lot of them watch a few minutes.
Watch them run out of the room with their hair on fire, their pants around their ankles. Like,
Yeah. Some of our 2 hour and 45-minute videos. But a lot of people are watching
That's
to
right.
the end.
Yep.
And, we do ask for your support. And if nobody cares that we're doing the video, we won't.
Right.
But that wasn't really what happened
No.
this week. I do appreciate the donations.
Yes. Thanks for the support.
Thanks for the support and the well-wishing. We're fine. Brian's just feeling a little yelled at, and kind of got my pants on fire for all the stuff I've messed up and planned. You know, what we do is we plan to do a little of this week and then film that. Do a little of this week and film that. Do a little bit of this and film that. And on Friday, put it together in a show. Well, if it's like Friday afternoon and 4 or 5 things we've done have all wound up in a cloud of smoke.
We're both looking at each other going, so what did we do?
We're going to do a show about what? And
everything's on fire.
I'm like going home, Brian. Let me know how it comes out.
And we came back on Monday, and we've been at it again, another week.
It's another week. We'll try again. Stay with us. We're going to try to go into a future, and we're getting a pretty good grasp on the dynamics of what actually works and doesn't. Observing this, one of the ways we made it with BoardWatch was I just could pretty much tell 6 months or a year out what was going to happen, and a lot of people found that of an advantage. And I'm kind of getting my gams under me on this EV thing, and most of the calls we've made in the last year have been dead on.
Have been really good,
And so I'm gaining some confidence, and I still think that the way to do this is to get the proper value for your Ducats and wind up with an electric car. You almost have to build it yourself.
I think so. I think that's still the case, and there was another, I can't remember who did it this week, but another study of even of the C-level executives at automotive manufacturers, then they're really saying they don't know what's going to happen. I mean, they're not sure what's going to happen. They all know that they have to do something. They're all doing something. They're investing heavily in it, but they don't have the slightest idea what it's going to look like at the end.
Yeah, and they don't think it's really going to be EVs right up front.
Right. No, hybrids and things. So so they don't know.
I think it's going to be a little better than they think, but it is kind of a long and bloody road to get Jeffrey Moore's crossing the chasm.
Right.
Some technologies don't make it beyond innovators and early adopters into the early majority. That's not a done deal.
No, just because you do it doesn't mean you ever make it.
And so take a look at Jeffrey Moore's Crossing the Chasm, and it describes this process of technology adoption in some detail, and all of it, by the way, applies to electric vehicles this time. And we finally have some technology with lithium batteries to do this. But what struck me was, here's a Tesla for 109, wait a minute, 135, wait a minute, $155,000.
Really. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Well, for that kind of money, I can build a pretty nice car. I can do an Escalade, actually.
Right. If your taste isn't a sports car or a 2-seat sports car, you've all of a sudden opened up a lot of possibilities for someone.
I think 2012, we're going to see the Tesla Model S is going to be very well received.
I think so.
$55,000 to $75,000 or $80,000. And I can still build a better, a car for me that would be as good for less money. And so I think that'll continue. But I think those efforts, the RAV4 is coming
back.
The Escort, Ford is non-trivial. If they take aim at something, they might just do it.
Yeah.
And so the Escort could be real. I think you're going to find the value proposition difficult for what you get in these cars. And so for many people, the concept of taking an existing beloved classic or just a car they like and converting it to their own to electric drive is going to be a viable way of getting there, and it's kind of a sweat equity way.
It is, and you learn a lot, and you get a lot of satisfaction out of it.
If you want me to build you a car, it's $60,000, but you could build that car for probably 40.
Probably 40,
If you
and maybe less with,
It wouldn't do it exactly the way I do them, but yeah.
Yeah, if you build a car too, you need to, it's good for someone to build their own car too, because then they know that car.
Yes, you understand the issues and the limitations and how to repair it and so forth. So it's very satisfying thing, and it kind of gets you out of this payback period. It's kind of like, what's the payback period on shooting ducks out of the air? I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Awfully expensive duck.
Yeah, that's
Pretty expensive
people
dinner.
are not out duck hunting to get cheap duck. That's
right.
That's not what duck hunting is about.
No.
And this is a great hobby. Oh my goodness, it's a great father-son thing, or two friends to collaborate on one of these things. In the end, it's not really that great amount of money, if you pull it off, which I'd say 90% of the people that start one of these conversions get it.
I think
Get
so,
it
too.
rolling.
Yeah.
In fact, the problem is there's so many of them that started with junk cars thinking they wouldn't get it done.
Right.
And then they get to the end and it works perfectly, but it's...
And then they go, damn, I got this
"Damn,
rusted
I
out
got
car.
a 78 POS.
Got a rusted out Datsun.
Datsun, what do I do with this?
When did they make Datsuns?
Why?
Why? That's right. Who is Mr. Datsun?
And so that's the most common mistake. And so I think the DIY movement is going to be very much alive in 2012. We're going to have a great year. We're going to do some great videos, some exciting cars, and hopefully have a bang-up convention if we can top that one last year.
That was pretty
I
cool.
had a very good time
Yep,
at that.
excellent. Anybody that wasn't there, consider it. September 26th this year now, coming up.
Yep. I think we're going to try to get that to be quite an event. So, for now, I'm Jack Rickard.
And I'm Brian Noto.
We'll see you all here at EVTV again.
We'll leave a light on for you.
Yeah, leave a light on.